Are you ready for answered prayer? Any prayer that is prayed in the will of God will be answered. In 1 John chapter 5 verse 14, this is the confidence that we have toward him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. But there's one problem. You may pray in God's will and not be sure that it was God's will. Shortly after, Zechariah and Elizabeth began to pray for a son. They did not realize that the first time they prayed it, God in heaven said yes. They thought, God's not going to answer this prayer. They didn't pray it anymore. Years later, here comes Gabriel and tells Zechariah, your prayer's been heard. Prayer? What prayer? You prayed for a son. Oh, that prayer, that's many years ago. Well, Gabriel says, God's going to send you a son. What do we learn from this? Any prayer that is prayed in the will of God will be answered. I want you to think for a moment of a prayer you used to pray. Maybe it was a salvation of a loved one. Maybe it was for healing. Maybe it was for a better job. And so you used to pray that. But when it wasn't answered soon, you just gave up. How would you feel if Gabriel, the archangel, came to you and said, your prayer has been heard, and he reminds you of a prayer you used to pray? How would you feel? Are you ready for answered prayer? The shape answered prayer takes is determined by your readiness at the time. Zechariah wasn't ready. Gabriel has to give him some bad news. Because you don't believe what I've just said, even though your prayer will be answered, you will not be able to enjoy it. You're going to be struck dumb and you're not able to speak. What we find is in a few months, Elizabeth is expecting a baby. All their friends say to Zechariah, congratulations, you're going to have a baby. And so Zechariah says back, but now he's getting his prayer answered. He's not able to enjoy it. Any prayer prayed in the will of God will be answered. But the shape it takes is determined by our readiness at the time. You have this principle with the whole nation of Israel. For years and years, rabbis in synagogues would say, oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down. They prayed for their Messiah. One day Messiah came, but they didn't recognize their own Messiah. And Jesus wept over the city of Jerusalem. Don't stop praying. God will answer in his time. You don't always have to have a godly request. You can ask for anything. Healing, raise and pay, better home, get closer to God. Anything you ask. No good thing will he withhold from you. He will come. He's never too late, never too early. He's always just on time. He is worth waiting for.